The sound came before the pain. Heavy boots, slow, dragging across the wooden floor. Abigail Miller didn't turn around. She already knew. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the kitchen table. The wood pressed into her palms as her shoulders lifted on their own, bracing, waiting. The first strike hit her ribs, sharp, deep. Air left her lungs in a broken gasp as her body folded forward. Behind her, the smell of cheap whiskey burned the air. "Stand up," Jed Cooper muttered. His voice wasn't loud. It never needed to be. Abigail pushed herself upright, one hand clutching her side. Her breath came short and uneven, like her lungs had forgotten how to work right. She didn't look at him. Looking only made it worse. The cabin stayed quiet for a long moment, except for his boots shifting, and her breath trying to steady itself. If you've ever felt your body freeze before something bad happens, you already know that silence. That was her life now. 3 years of it. 3 long years since she said yes. Back then, Abigail had stood in a black dress beside a fresh grave. Wind pulled at her hair. Dust clung to her shoes. Her father's name carved into stone. She had no one left. No brothers. No mother. No voice in the world that spoke her name with care. Then Jedediah Cooper stepped forward. Clean shirt. Easy smile. Words that sounded warm enough to trust. "You shouldn't be alone out here," he had told her. And she believed him. The first slap came 2 weeks after the wedding. Burnt biscuits. That was all it took. Her head snapped sideways, and the room tilted for a second. Jed stood there breathing hard, staring at his own hand like it had acted on its own. "I didn't mean it," he said. She believed that too. Now, standing in that same kitchen years later, she knew better. Abigail moved slowly toward the stove. Her body carried weight, strong, solid, but every step felt measured, careful, like walking across thin ice. Behind her, Jed sank into a chair. A bottle hit the table. "You think you're worth something?" he muttered. She kept her eyes on the pot. Steam rose, brushing her face. "You ain't nothing without me." Her hand trembled slightly as she stirred. She said nothing. Silence kept her alive. The town of Oakmere watched everything, and did nothing. On the boardwalk, boots creaked. Men leaned against posts. Women whispered behind hands. Abigail felt their eyes. Always. Her dress pulled tight across her frame, her steps heavy on the wood. She heard the words sometimes. Not loud. Just enough. "Big girl like that? No wonder he drinks." She kept walking. Head down. Breath steady. The sun burned hot above, but it never reached inside her. Inside the mercantile, things were quieter. Shelves, ledgers, order. She liked that. Numbers didn't lie. Cans didn't judge. Cloth didn't whisper. Abigail stood behind the counter, running her fingers along a stack of folded fabric. For a moment, just a moment, her shoulders dropped. Peace. Then the bell above the door rang. She flinched. Hard. Her head snapped up before she could stop it. Boots stepped inside. Not rushed. Not dragging. Steady. Each step landed with a soft weight, followed by the faint jingle of spurs. Different. Abigail's hand hovered over the counter. She didn't look right away. She had learned not to. "Afternoon, ma'am." The voice came low, calm, even. No edge. No bite. Her eyes lifted slowly, and stopped. The man stood tall, filling the doorway behind him with shadow. Dust covered his coat. His hat cast a line across his face. But his eyes, gray, sharp, watching. Not her body, not her size. Her face, her bruises. Something shifted in his gaze. Not pity, something colder. Something that held still, like a storm deciding whether to break. "I need some supplies," he said. Simple. Abigail swallowed. Her throat felt dry. "Yes, sir." Her voice came out rough, like she hadn't used it in days. She turned, reaching for the shelf. As her arm lifted, Her sleeve slid back. Dark marks showed along her skin, finger-shaped. She pulled the fabric down fast. Too late. She could feel his eyes on it. Not staring. Not lingering. Just noticing. That felt worse somehow. She gathered the items and set them on the counter. $2.40. He placed coins down. Didn't count them twice. Keep the change. Her hand moved on instinct. No, I can't. The door slammed open. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Abigail! Her body locked. Every muscle. Every breath. Jed stormed in, face red, steps uneven. The smell hit before he reached the counter. Where's the money? He barked. She shook her head slightly. Jed, there's a... His hand grabbed her collar. Hard. Cloth tightened around her throat as he yanked her forward. You hiding from me? Her feet stumbled. Her hands came up, gripping his wrist without thinking. The room blurred. This was it. The next hit. She braced. Closed her eyes. A sound cut through the air. Sharp. Metal. Click. Everything stopped. Jed's grip froze. Abigail opened her eyes. Slowly. The stranger stood beside them now. Close. Too close. His arm extended. A revolver pressed against Jed's temple. Steady. Unshaking. Let her go. The words came quiet. Not loud. Not angry. Final. Jed's fingers loosened. Just a little. That's my wife. The barrel pressed harder. Let her go. Jed released her, hands lifting. His breath changed. Fast now. Uneven. Abigail stepped back, clutching her chest. The stranger didn't look at her. His eyes stayed locked on Jed. Step away. Jed did. One step, then another. The room felt smaller now. Tighter. Like the walls were closing in. The stranger lowered the gun. Slowly, but didn't holster it yet. My name's Wyatt Hayes, he said. Still calm. Still steady. And if I see you touch her again. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jed nodded fast. Too fast. Yeah, all right. Get out. Jed didn't argue. He turned and rushed out, boots slipping against the floor. The door slammed behind him. Silence followed. Heavy. Thick. Abigail stood still. Her hands shaking, her breath uneven. Waiting. That's what she knew. Violence always came with a price. She expected him to turn, to demand something. Money. Control. Something. Instead, the gun disappeared back into its holster. Wyatt removed his hat, held it against his chest. His voice changed. Softer now. You all right, ma'am? The question hit harder than anything else that day. Abigail stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came. No one had asked her that. Not in years. Her chest tightened. Her breath broke. And then it happened. A sound she hadn't made in a long time. A sob. It tore out of her before she could stop it. Her shoulders shook. Her hands covered her face. Wyatt didn't move closer. Didn't touch her. He just stood there, waiting, respecting the space between them. A man don't raise his hand like that, he said quietly. His eyes stayed on her, steady, certain. You don't deserve that. Abigail lowered her hands slowly. Her eyes met his. Something flickered there. Small. Fragile. But alive. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't feel completely alone. Outside, the wind picked up. Dust rolled across the street. And somewhere beyond the town, something darker was already beginning to move. The town didn't speak about what happened, but it watched. The next morning, Abigail stood behind the counter again. Same shelves. Same dust floating through sunlight. But her hands didn't shake the same way. Not gone. Just different. Like something inside her had shifted slightly out of place. The bell rang. She flinched, then stopped herself. Forced her shoulders down. forced her breath steady. Wyatt Hayes stepped in. Same slow walk. Same quiet presence. He tipped his hat. "Afternoon, Miss Abigail." Her name. He said it like it mattered. She nodded once. "Afternoon." Her voice still rough, but stronger than yesterday. He didn't ask about Jed. Didn't look around for trouble. He just picked up a small tin from the shelf, turned it in his hand, like he had all the time in the world. Outside, a wagon rolled past. Inside, silence stretched between them. Not heavy, not sharp, just there. "You always keep the place this organized?" he asked. "Simple." Abigail glanced at the stacked shelves. "Yes." A pause. "It helps." He nodded once. Didn't press further. Didn't press further. That felt new. For 3 years, every word in her life had been pulled out of her. Demanded. Forced. Now, someone was letting silence exist. And somehow, that said more. "You from around here?" she asked. The words surprised even her. Wyatt looked at her, a small shift in his eyes. "Passing through," he said, but something in his jaw tightened. Like that wasn't the whole truth. Abigail noticed. She didn't ask more. Outside, Boots stopped near the window. Laughter. Rough. Familiar. Her hand froze mid-movement. Wyatt noticed that. His gaze slid toward the door, then back to her. "You expecting trouble?" he asked quietly. She shook her head, but her fingers curled into her palm. The door didn't open. The laughter moved on. Abigail let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Wyatt set the tin down. "You don't have to stay," he said. She looked at him. "I know." But she didn't move. Days passed. Wyatt came every afternoon, not always buying much. Sometimes nothing at all. Just standing near the window, watching the street. His presence changed things. Men who used to linger outside stopped. Voices that once carried too far faded. Jed stayed away, at least during daylight. But nights were different. That evening, Abigail sat at the kitchen table, hands folded, waiting. The door creaked open. Jed stepped inside. No shouting. No sudden movement. Just slow steps across the floor, boots dragging slightly. He didn't look at her. Went straight to the chair. Sat down. The bottle followed. Glass hit wood. Silence filled the room. But it wasn't the same silence. This one felt coiled, tight, like something waiting to snap. "You think you're safe now?" he muttered. Abigail didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the table. "You think that drifter's gonna stay forever?" The bottle tipped. Liquid sloshed. "He ain't." Jed leaned forward. His voice dropped lower. "When he's gone." He let the words hang. Didn't need to finish. Abigail's fingers pressed into the wood, but she didn't move, didn't speak. Later that night, she lay in bed, eyes open, listening, boots pacing, back and forth, hours, no sleep. Just the sound, and the feeling that something was coming. The next afternoon, Wyatt stood at the counter again. Abigail placed a small sack in front of him. He didn't touch it. "You didn't sleep," he said. Not a question. She paused, then shook her head. "No." He nodded once, like he expected that. Outside, clouds gathered. Dark, low. Wind pushed dust along the street. Storm coming. "I used to ride with the Rangers," Wyatt said. The words came out quiet, like he wasn't planning to say them. Abigail looked up. He kept his eyes on the window. Seen men like him before. His jaw tightened slightly. Worse ones, too. She didn't speak, didn't interrupt. "There was a house," he continued, "far south. Rain started tapping lightly against the glass. Man in that house smiled in public. His hand rested on the counter. Still. Behind doors, different story." Abigail's breath slowed. Her fingers stopped moving. "I got there late," Wyatt said. The words came flat now. No rise, no fall. 3 days too late. Silence. Only rain now. Steady. Abigail looked at his hand, the way it stayed still. Too still. Like if it moved, something would break loose. What happened? She asked, her voice soft. Wyatt didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the street, but they weren't seeing it anymore. They buried her before I got there. That was it. No more. No explanation. No detail. Just that. Abigail's throat tightened. She nodded slightly. Didn't say she was sorry. Didn't reach out. She understood something now. Some things didn't need words. Wyatt pushed the coins forward. Didn't take change. He picked up the sack. Stopped at the door. Then turned back slightly. You don't have to wait for him to change, he said. Not loud. Not forceful. Just clear. Then he stepped out into the rain. That night, the storm hit hard. Wind slammed against the cabin walls. Rain poured like it was trying to wash the whole town away. Abigail sat near the small fire. Alone. Jed hadn't come home. The silence felt wrong. Too empty. She stood slowly, walked to the window. Lightning flashed, and for a second, she saw it. The rope, coiled, hanging near the door. Her breath caught. She hadn't left it there. The door burst open. Wind howled inside. Jed stood in the frame, soaked, eyes wide, different. Not drunk, not slow, focused. Get your things, he said. Abigail didn't move. What? His hand tightened around the rope. We're leaving. The words came sharp, fast. Tonight. Her chest rose slowly. Why? He stepped forward, boots slamming against the floor. Because I said so. He grabbed her arm. Hard. Too hard. Pain shot up her shoulder. Move. But something inside her, that small, fragile spark, it didn't shrink this time. Her feet stayed planted. No. The word slipped out before she could stop it. Jed froze. Slowly, his head turned toward her. Silence. Deep. Heavy. Dangerous. You just say no to me? He asked. Low. Quiet. Abigail's heart pounded against her ribs. But she didn't step back. No. Outside, thunder cracked. And far beyond the storm, a rider pushed hard through the rain. Straight toward Oakmere. Jed's hand tightened around her arm. Hard enough to pull her forward. But Abigail didn't stumble this time. Her boots held against the floor. Her weight planted. Jed yanked again. Nothing. His breath changed. Fast. Sharp. Move, he hissed. She shook her head. No. For a second, neither of them moved. The storm outside roared against the cabin walls. Rain slammed the roof. Wind forced its way through the cracks. But inside, everything felt still, tight, like the air itself was waiting. Jed's face twisted. Not rage at first. Confusion. Then something darker. His grip shifted from her arm to her shoulder. Fingers digging in. You forget who you are? He said. Low. Slow. Each word pressed out like it hurt him to say it. Abigail looked straight at him. Not down. Not away. Straight. And that alone changed something. Jed saw it. And it shook him. You don't walk out on me, he snapped. His voice rose now, cracking under the pressure. You don't get to say no. His other hand came up. Fast. Too fast. But Abigail moved first. She caught his wrist. Not clean, not smooth, but enough. His hand stopped inches from her face. Both of them froze. Jed stared at her hand, then at her face, like he didn't recognize either. You think you're stronger now? He whispered. Abigail's grip tightened. Her fingers pressed into his skin. Her arm trembled, but didn't give. I ain't weaker, she said. The words landed heavy, Jed jerked his arm free, stepped back. Breathing harder now, his eyes flicked toward the door, toward the rope, then back to her. "You've been talking to him," he muttered, "filling your head." Abigail said nothing. Jed grabbed the rope, wrapped it once around his hand. The fibers creaked tight. "You're coming with me," he said. This time, louder. Not asking. Not warning. Deciding. Abigail stepped back. Her heel hit the edge of the table. She didn't look. Didn't need to. Her eyes stayed on him. Outside, a horse cut through the storm. Hooves pounding mud. Closer. Faster. Inside, Jed lunged. The rope swung forward. Not to grab, to strike. It hit her shoulder. Hard. Pain shot down her arm. Her body twisted from the impact. But she didn't fall, didn't fold. Instead, she moved forward. Her shoulder drove into his chest, all her weight behind it. All of it. Jed staggered. Didn't expect it. Didn't brace. His back hit the table. Wood cracked under the force. Abigail didn't stop. She pushed again. Harder. Her boots sliding slightly on the floor, but her body kept driving. Jed lost his footing. Went down. The rope slipped from his hand. He hit the ground with a grunt, air leaving his lungs. Abigail stood over him, chest rising, falling, fast, her hands shaking, but not from fear. Jed rolled, reaching for his belt. Knife. She saw it. Too late to stop his hand, but not too late to act. Abigail stepped forward and dropped her full weight down onto him. The impact knocked the air out of him again, harder this time. His hand missed the knife, his arms pinned beneath her. He bucked, thrashed, tried to twist free. But he couldn't. For the first time, he couldn't move her. His breath came short. Panicked now. Real panic. His eyes wide, searching. Not for control, for escape. "You get off me," he gasped. Abigail didn't. Her hands found his collar, pulled him up just enough, then drove him back down. His head hit the floor, hard. The storm outside cracked with thunder. Inside, her breath filled the room. Jed's movement slowed, then weakened, then stopped. His body went slack, eyes rolling, gone. Abigail stayed where she was, still on top of him, still holding him down. Like if she moved, he might rise again. Seconds passed, or minutes. She didn't know. The door burst open. Wind and rain rushed in. Boots hit the floor. Fast. Heavy. Wyatt. He stopped when he saw them. His hand hovered near his gun, then lowered. Slowly, his eyes moved from Jed to Abigail. She looked back at him, breathing hard, hair stuck to her face, dress torn. Hands clenched. But she didn't look small anymore. Wyatt stepped closer. Careful, not rushing her. "He done?" he asked. "Quiet." Abigail looked down at the man beneath her, then back at Wyatt. She nodded once. Wyatt crouched, checked Jed's breath, then stood again. "He's out," he said. Another flash of lightning lit the room. For a second, everything stood clear. The broken table, the rope on the floor. The man who once filled the room with fear, now lying still. Wyatt extended his hand. Not forcing, just offering. Abigail looked at it. Her fingers loosened from Jed's collar. Slowly, she shifted her weight, pushed herself up. Her body felt heavy again, but different. She took Wyatt's hand. He pulled her to her feet. Steady, no strain. They stood facing each other. Close, but not touching anymore. "You hurt?" he asked. She shook her head. No. Her voice came out clear, stronger than it had ever sounded. Outside, The storm began to break. Rain softening, wind easing. Inside, the silence returned, but it wasn't the same. Abigail turned, walked to the door, stepped out onto the wet ground. The sky was clearing, clouds breaking apart, moonlight pushing through. Behind her, boots moved. Wyatt followed. He didn't speak, didn't need to. Abigail stood there, looking out across the dark land, her chest rising slowly now, her breath steady. For the first time in 3 years, she wasn't waiting for the next hit. Behind them, somewhere in the distance, hooves approached through the mud, and lantern light began to flicker across the road toward Oakmere. Morning came slow. Soft light crept across the broken cabin floor. Nothing moved. Not the rope, not the shattered table, not the man lying in the dirt. Abigail stood outside, barely a step from the door. Her boots sunk slightly into the wet ground. The storm had washed the dust away. Everything looked clearer, too clear. Behind her, chains rattled. Metal, firm, final. She didn't turn right away, didn't rush. Just stood there, breathing steady, feeling the air fill her chest without resistance. Abigail Miller. The voice came from behind, deep, official. She turned slowly. A tall man stood beside Wyatt, clean coat, star pinned to his chest, eyes sharp, but not cruel. A federal marshal. Jed sat on the ground between them, wrists bound. Face swollen, head lowered. No shouting now, no threats, just silence. The marshal glanced at her, then at Wyatt, then back again. "He yours?" he asked. Abigail looked at Jed, really looked, for the first time, without fear. His shoulders slumped, his hands tied, his voice gone. She shook her head. "No." The word came easy, clean. The marshal nodded once, pulled Jed to his feet. Jed stumbled. Almost fell. No strength left in him now. "Wait," Jed rasped. His voice cracked. Weak. He looked at her. Not angry. Not loud. Just desperate. "You ain't gonna say nothing?" he asked. Abigail didn't step closer. Didn't move at all. Jed swallowed hard. "You need me," he said. The words came out slower now. Uncertain. "You always needed me." Abigail's eyes didn't shift, didn't drop, didn't soften. "No," she said. The marshal tugged the chain. Jed staggered forward. His boots dragged across the dirt. He didn't fight, didn't look back again. They moved down the road. Slow, steady, until the dust swallowed them. Silence returned. Abigail stood there a moment longer, then turned back toward the cabin. The door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the same walls, the same floor, but something had changed. She walked to the table, ran her hand across the cracked wood, stopped. Then, she pushed it. The table tipped, fell, hit the ground with a heavy thud. She didn't flinch. One by one, she moved things, the rope, the chair, the broken pieces, clearing the room. Each movement steady, measured. No rush. By the time the sun climbed higher, the cabin looked different. Not fixed, but no longer holding him. Footsteps approached outside. Wyatt stood at the doorway, hat in hand, not stepping inside. "You heading into town?" he asked. Abigail wiped her hands on her dress, nodded once. "Good," he said. A small pause. "I'll walk with you." They didn't speak as they walked. Didn't need to. Boots moved side by side along the road. Dust rising lightly under each step. Oakmere came into view. Same buildings, same boardwalk, same eyes watching. But something felt different. Abigail stepped onto the wood. The boards creaked beneath her weight. Heads turned. Voices lowered. She kept walking. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. The mercantile door stood ahead, paint chipped, window dusty. She reached it, placed her hand on the handle. For a second, she paused, then pushed it open. The bell rang, clear, sharp. Inside, the same shelves. The same counter, but the air felt open. Abigail stepped behind the counter, set her hands down, looked around. Everything was still hers. Outside, Wyatt leaned against the post, watching, not stepping in, not taking space, just there. A customer walked in, stopped when they saw her. Eyes flicked across her face, her posture, her hands. Abigail met their gaze, didn't look away. "What can I get you?" she asked. Her voice didn't shake. The customer nodded slowly, stepped forward. Outside, Wyatt tipped his hat, turned slightly toward the street. Keeping watch. The sun climbed higher. Light filled the doorway. Inside, Abigail reached for a sack of flour, lifted it, set it on the counter. Her arms held firm. No hesitation, no pause. Behind her, the door stayed open. Wind moved through, fresh air replacing what had been trapped too long. Abigail glanced toward the light, then back to her work. And for the first time, there was nothing behind her waiting to strike, only the open door, and the road beyond it. Outside, Wyatt didn't move, didn't leave, just stood there, until the shadows began to stretch across the town once again.